come back. What's that? I like jokes.
I can't. I don't know how it works.
I can't. I'm not sure about the reference. Who is it? Oh. Oh, now I got it. Okay. Pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain. Okay, let's sit for a few minutes and come back from wherever you were, maybe downstairs, maybe the land of Oz, maybe Kansas, but wherever it is, let's sit for a couple minutes, feet on the floor, just feeling the body, watching the thoughts and feelings just float by. And relax a little more, relax deeper, relax the face, shoulders, tummy, thighs, feet. Just totally relax the back. Notice how thoughts have no substance. And if we don't cling or push away, they just naturally go. Come, go. Okay, we're going to return to this superior-inferior system model. But first I thought we'd spend a little time on this idea of how to speak up effectively, compassionately, when we're noticing some kind of ism going on. So I'd like to just, I'll give you a couple models of my own experience. So I don't know if this one was effective or not, but it was potent. The same brother-in-law who I dearly love, I was at my sister's house, and he was there. Her name's Joan, and his name's Clint. And I was pretty new to these workshops. I was learning all this particularly anti-racism stuff, so I was ready. It wasn't taught within equanimity. It was taught within activism. Just wasn't bad, but it was missing a piece there. So we're at the house. There's a lot of relatives. We're in the living room, and I start hearing my brother-in-law and nephew, who's married to my grown-up niece, begin to tell incredibly racist jokes, kind of loud, particularly targeting Black people. And I'm sitting about as far as from Cynthia there, maybe, what is that, 15 feet, 12 feet, something like that. And I'm going, oh no. I'm going, oh no. And I'm doing that for two reasons. One, because it was so ugly. And they're kind of getting each other going. Let me tell you one, let me tell you one. And they're loud enough that kids, everyone can kind of hear, although there was other talking in the room. But I'm also going, oh no, because I had made a commitment in the last workshop I was in, and the commitment went like this. The next racist joke I hear, I'm going to say something. And I'm going, oh no, not here. Not now. You know, why couldn't it be one-on-one in an elevator with a stranger? You know? But I get serious about my commitments. So, completely trembling. I mean, this is the same brother-in-law that threw me out from the table about a decade before that over the Vietnam War. Anyway, I was scared out of my wits. I mean, because, I don't know, it was just so scary. I mean, I'm a woman. I'm known as the weird one, you know. So, but I stood up, and I said, not so angry, but very forceful, excuse me, and the room went silent, like, oh God, Aunt Kathleen and Uncle Clint are gonna do it again. And I said, I feel offended by your jokes. So that's one thing that went well, is take on the offense yourself. Not saying, those jokes offend people of color, but saying, I feel offended, and if you came to my house, I would not want to offend you that way. The room with about 20 people was dead silent. And I wasn't even breathing. But bless her heart, my sister, who is usually very, very passive in those situations, like just make nice. She's very smart, very brave, but she just goes, make nice, make nice. So she did a make nice, but it was interesting because she said, and she did this to her husband in front of everyone. She said, that's right, I don't appreciate those jokes either. I could have fallen over. Then there was again a huge silence. The two men, Clint and John, didn't say anything. They turned very red. And then others just started talking about other stuff. La, 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 la. Those two guys and me stayed, you know, did that dance where you just stay on the other. You're in the dining room, I go in the front room. You're in the hallway, I go down the other hallway. That's what we did. It was brave, and I don't know. I think now what I would do is go up to the two of them more quietly and just say it to them, because it pushed their humiliation shame button. And what I wanted to do was get information across and stand up, but but I was clumsy, but I did it. Now, the result was later he took her to task very much, yelling at her, etc., when they were one-on-one. Don't you ever do that to me again. So that was the downside of, kind of not. A more successful one that was kind of gentle was I was with one of the small children I'm around, not my current grandsons, but nieces and nephews, who said they had not been around a black person before, and we were somewhere like at a mall or something, and there was a very dark black person, and this little one said, "Wow, what happened to that person? There's a color there. I mean, she didn't say dirty, but it had that aspect, like there's something wrong." And because of the workshops, I had learned to simply turn and say, "Oh, nothing wrong. People come in all colors." At a kid's level, it's just information. Normal. People come in all colors. And recently, I think I told you, I'm not sure if I told you here, in that National Geographic, they had that Pantones thing of all the colors of humans. So I took that back to my 6-year-old grandson, and we looked at it and spread it out and put our hands there. What Pantone are we? And people come in every color, and normalizing it, which someone also pointed out you can do with comments by children about people who look different in any way. Just normalizing difference. So one friend shared, someone said, "Oh, that man is so fat," Children will just say, we think it, we don't say it, and then say, "People come in all sizes." Yeah, people come in all sizes, And then the child can kind of let go, or they can talk more, but it doesn't, say, "Shh." That's the most common one. "Shh," or ignore. Which gives a message. Don't talk about that. Don't see that. Okay? And we want to give this more open message. So I wanted to just give those 2 examples and then open it up for people with questions or examples of ways you've been successful or not and what you learned. Laura, thanks.
So speaking of children, I'm wondering about your first story. If it was that wrong because they had been telling the joke so loudly and children could hear, so you did embarrass him, but by shushing the whole room in a way, the children could hear and could see someone standing up to those jokes.
Yeah, that part was good. I'm not saying it was all bad. I'm saying the part went well, and then there was fallout from the clumsiness of, But maybe that was fine. My brother-in-law doesn't bring it up at all to me. And recently, just this last weekend, because of my sick brother, who's his brother-in-law, we were all together and we had the most delightful time. He makes really good strawberry jam. So, you can always find something to love about someone. He has a great organic garden and gives away tons of food. Life is complex. And he's obviously got nothing about that anymore. Or he's just sailing on it. But he's very kind. We hug. He says he loves me,
I guess I'm just trying to forgive myself for all the times when I've tried to write a situation and not done it very expertly, but maybe remind myself that you never know the cascading consequences of the things you say, and hopefully some things are happening in a positive way that you can't foresee.
Yeah, this one I've worked on through a number of workshops, and I still have contact with him and my sister, so I get to see some long-term effects. Mary, and then I'm going to have everyone pair up again to talk about doing this, not doing this, whether you've been successful or not, and what gets in your way. Mary?
Well, in reading the book, too, this came up. One of the things that came up for me was like something that I think I found out that white people do that we think that we're doing a good thing. and we're not. In that,
Wait, I missed that. White people.
When I'm making a generalization about other white people.
Okay.
But I'm assuming other white people have done this, thinking they're doing a good thing.
Oh.
Is that you say, "Oh, I don't see the color." It's like
yeah.
that. I thought, "Oh my God, I didn't realize. I thought I was just being equanimous. I was actually denying their experience."
Thank you.
You know, so I thought that was like really curious, you know, and I thought, and it made me think, how many other things like that do I do, like, unconsciously? I think I'm doing a good thing. I mean, I guess, you know, my intention is to do something good.
Sure.
But it looks like something else
to
a different person. And I also, that may be an extrapolation as well, but it was a good juggling act in my mind.
Yeah. When I was working so closely in Tools for Diversity with an African American man and a Latina, I think I passed out or handed out that thing called the paradigms. Anyway, it's online now. You can look at the workshop description, go in and get all the handouts. In the paradigms, that's the paradigm called the golden rule. I just treat everyone the same. It's a good human rule. I don't think you have it in these papers. Well, I brought it. We'll pass it out at the end. But the point is that we have paradigms that in our minds where we approach the isms. And one of them is, I don't see difference. And my African American black man friend used to say, when people would say that, he would stand up and say, look, you don't see my color of skin? You don't see it? I mean, he would really, and be kind of funny about it, but very challenging. Like, really? Really? Come on, what's going on there, you know? Sure, I want you to treat me well, but I want you to go back to those concentric circles. I want you to know I'm in social, economic, political groups that there are effects on me. Like when Cliff would drive down the street as a black man, he got stopped so many times in Portland for nothing. You didn't signal, you did signal, you changed a lane without signaling. How many of us have done that? But when you're a black man pulled over, it's downright scary. Scary. And he feels angry about it, of course. And he gets over it, of course, every day. But he has to go through that stress. You know, just driving around, especially at night, he said, it's the most scary thing, being a black man driving a car at night, anywhere in Portland. Doesn't matter. It's not like there's some great neighborhoods and some that aren't. Can happen anywhere. I don't have that experience, but I have the experience of being a woman afraid to walk at night. And I want to walk at night, and I do actually. Don't tell anybody. I go out around my neighborhood, but I'm hyper aware. If I see a man, especially behind me, I will cross the street and turn and look at him. You know, I mean, it's just something I carry, you know. Okay, so now, let's pair up in a different way. Let's see. Let's start with Camilo and Bob, you two together, and then you'll have a new pair. Mary, you're going to be with Peter. So go that way. Bill with Lynn. Bill with Lynn. Miriam, oh, wait. Bill with me. Miriam with Lynn. Okay. Yeah, that's 2, 2, 2. Everybody got one. Okay, so what you're sharing is thoughts about interrupting ism-type statements, either mostly in public. What's that like for you? How could you do it? Have you done it? Okay, just with each other. 2 minutes each.
So we'll have to move away from the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
I've experienced myself being short. that's in fact when Celeste was like, it seemed to me like she had her hand up for a while, and I'm like, don't my person. But so, but having said that, I don't think I'm that great at it, in the sense that I shouldn't say that, because I acknowledge that if it's my survival in the job, like Peter was describing, I'm like, maybe talk about that in a different way. about it sometime. I got called into one of my bosses. I can't do it. That actually happened because then we'll have to make a process. We're just going to give them some coaching. And describe it as a it's just like, how helpful is this going to be? It's like, it's just totally weird. He's making notes up. Catch 22. You've done something wrong, but we can't tell you what it is. But we're going to coach you about it.
Let's hear back some insights, first from people who have not spoken, if you would be so brave. Any insights, any thoughts, and again, sharing your experience, not your partner's. Yeah, Jeff. There's a microphone somewhere. Look around and see if it's near you. It's floating.
What we discussed was what came up was I tend to simply remain silent in these situations for the same sorts of reasons that came up in the last round before break. Mm-hmm. Either fear of bungling something or fear of conflict or failure or but it's not that I've been acutely aware since I was a kid of the issues at hand. That
Good.
I've been acutely aware that I'm privileged. But I tend to I've tended to deal with it simply by reaching out to people rather than standing up and against anybody. I did remember at the very end of our conversation, one time when I spoke up at a dinner party at my mother's house, when it was during the year that Jesse Jackson was running for president.
Oh, 84.
Yeah, and my friend at the dinner party says, "I can't even understand what he's saying." And I turned to her and I said, "That's because you're so white."
How'd that go?
Which went nowhere. The conversation just went on to another topic, just completely different topic.
Yeah. My husband, we like that word because we're still friends. My husband has this. He's Jewish from New York, and so he's dealt with anti-Semitism all of his life. And we have this joke, like sometimes we're going to go somewhere, and we say, "Now we got to be white," you know? And we mean like upper, it moves up the class line, and got to dress a certain way, and appear even whiter. So it's kind of a joke, but it's shorthand for that's going on. Yeah. Other people, insights to share? Linda?
So we were talking about a spectrum across my lifetime of, because I'm gay, because I'm lesbian, mm-hmm. The openness, the prejudices around this, what's happened has been on such a gigantic spectrum throughout my whole life. So first off, when I came out to my parents, my mother was absolutely horrified.
Yeah.
And took a number of years of really a lot of effort between the two of us. and Martha, my partner Martha, for her to become just fine. And then she began to speak up whenever she would hear a bad joke about gay people or some kind of prejudice, and she would say, how she would do it was say, my daughter's a lesbian and you're giving really inaccurate information here. You know, what you're saying is not true, and it's really hurtful. And, you know, she got really skillful at it, especially in church.
How cool.
You know, when people would, so that was really rewarding to see that spectrum. And then now, everything has changed so much in our life. And I find myself in the setting of being around lesbians my age and older who are really struggling with gender non-binary, and they as a pronoun, and, you know, as a singular pronoun. And when we try, you know, and they will start, those older lesbians will start really saying inaccurate and mean things about the theys.
Yeah.
And I'm in this really different place of saying, you know, why do you feel that way? And can we talk about that? And what's clear in every setting is that people just want to be safe, and they just want the people they love to be safe. And so where we are on the spectrum can keep shifting as everything shifts. And that's just really poignant to me.
Thanks for those insights. Anyone else? Let's go Rosemary and then Celeste.
So I was aware that over a number of years I've gotten much more adept at calling out sexism, and I do it regularly with people close to me and distant from me. But it is much harder for me to do that with racism. And I was recalling to Maggie that there was a comment made by someone, actually it was in this Sangha, but it could have been anywhere, of course, that was racist, and how difficult I did not say anything, and how difficult that was for me to wrap my brain around even. And I thought about why I didn't say anything, and part of it was just wanting to be nice and kind, and, oh, she couldn't possibly have meant that, and wanting to have a rapport with her, not wanting to create this sort of schism between us. But I think there's something in addition to that which has to do with like feeling included, like feeling in the in-group kind of. Yeah. And I remember that, you know, over the course of my life, you know, like as a teenager, I would hear things, and it didn't feel safe to me to say anything about them because of how important it was for me to feel included.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, the 8 worldlies are all about me and I, and I'll protect me at the expense of letting whatever run. And it takes some real work, which we're doing right now. This is the work. See what's going on for you, and then just see it. Just see it. Once you see it, it'll start shifting. And see that it has no essence. It's just nonsense that we've been stuck in. And there's no limits to ditching it, you know, moving past it, seeing its nature, being free with people, being free with all kinds of people, and enjoying all kinds of people, and even enjoying our discomfort. even letting that in and going, okay, I'm so embarrassed, I'm so stuck, invite it in, have tea with it. Hi, we're stuck and embarrassed here. That's pretty funny. You know, don't make that into a big thing either. And you can use what you've learned about interrupting sexism and begin applying it over the other direction. Thanks. Celestine.
I had an experience. I was helping to feed the homeless. We go down. I have a friend. We would go down and cook and feed the homeless. And there was this one man that after we had fed them, we were sitting to the table talking, and he was just going off with racism. And he was talking about President Trump and how people should not be protesting, whatever. And he said, I hated Obama, but I didn't protest. And I felt, I didn't say anything because I feel there's a time to speak and there's a time to be quiet.
Yeah, that's
but
important.
The person that was with me was a white person. And she said, because he said he's the worst president we ever had, that has ever been. And she said, oh, no, that's not true. And so he said, Google it. Google it.
Google how Obama was the worst?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So-
you'll find that.
So it was
You'll
a
find
time for
everything.
me to be quiet. I just felt pain for him, that he was going through what he's going through, because you couldn't not be in pain and say things like that. But I want to say of another experience that I had.
Yeah. For
Another-
those who are listening.
Another experience that I had was at a restaurant that I was sharing with her. And there was this guy who came in, and he seemed to be fine. It was at one of these buffet restaurants where you, a Mongolian grill, and you fix your food, and he was asking people questions, and they was telling him, and he was a person of color, and they were telling him how to fix it, and he did. And then when they cooked the food, and I don't know what set him off, he was at the table, and he just started just cursing and using all kinds of language and calling people the N-word. And he went on a raving, so, and the thought came into me that he may have a gun. So I goes up and tells the cash register, which they had already been talking to him, the staff had been trying to get him to quieten down and tell him how they was disrupting their customers, he was. And so I said, I think maybe you should call the police, because he had told them before when they mentioned call them. And so she said, well, I'll go back. I told her, I said, maybe you should. She said, I'm going to go talk to my boss. And I said, okay. So on my way back to my seat, I thought, there may be something that I can do. And the mantra, "Om Pet Me Home," came right up. And I just silently recited that mantra, kept reciting it. And then he got up, asked them to come to put his food in a takeout, and he took it and left. So there's a time to be quiet, to speak. And, I always feel that it will be given to me what to do when the time occurs.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was just a couple of, as people were talking, I wrote down that silence sometimes is the very best practice under the circumstances. We are not talking about, you got to say something, you got to grab someone, you got to do. And we tend to disparage within ourselves prayers and thoughts. Thoughts are action. Calling Om Mani Padme Hum to your mind is an action. In Buddhism, actions are mind, body, and speech. Mind is action, we know this, but we forget. And I've also, probably others here, have had that situation of, I've got a clue of what to do, therefore I know I will just add confusion. As Jeff said, don't want to add more confusion. So sit there and pour light down, Buddha light on the whole thing. Or I tend to go to Vajrasattva, just think white light pours through me, I get clear, it pours through everything. And sometimes something happens right away, sometimes it doesn't. But I will tell you that then sometimes I take the situation where I was flummoxed, I go to the cushion the next few times, I recreate the situation and have that light pour through. And way more than once, I've had it happen that the next time I see that person or I'm in that situation, something has eased. Maybe it's just my mind, but something has come to an easy, peaceful place where now I can say something, or I see there's no need to say something. I also want to say, and we can do this more in the third class if it's helpful. Nonviolent communication can seem really complex to people, but basically the first 2 steps of it are so helpful when you're trying to talk to someone about an ism or anything that's difficult. The first thing you do is you say, I feel uncomfortable. Someone's ranting or raving, I feel uncomfortable, or I feel worried about what's going on. I feel some tension. Then, so you claim it. You aren't saying you. Never start with you. That's them's fighting words. You start with I feel. That's the main thing. And then do a feeling. Don't say I feel blamed. I feel undermined. That's not a feeling. Those are thoughts. I think I'm being blamed, but I feel scared, angry. The feeling words are not very many. Sad, mad, scared. Pretty much my therapist says go those 3. Sad, mad, scared. Just use those. So I feel anxious. And the next one is because I need harmony. I use that in my house sometimes. People are getting all riled up about something, especially about the current political. I say, I'm feeling anxious because I need harmony. Now, no one can argue with your need. No, you don't need harmony. You need chaos. You need strife. That's why nonviolent communication is so direct. I feel this, I need this. Then just stop there and see if they can respond. It does go further to a request, etc., but you don't have to. You can go to the request of, and therefore, would you be willing to stop this conversation now and take it up later, or I need some quiet right now. Okay, so those are just some possible. Let's go to Andrea and then Camilo. Press the button until you see the green light. Thank you.
I'll learn someday. I was just telling this story, and I would need some help to know how to respond in this situation. So
Okay, good.
I was up at Dorje Ling, and there was which is a Tibetan Buddhist.
Can you talk right into it?
I was up at Dorje Ling, which is a Tibetan Buddhist center, and there was a Lama from Tibet there, and he was talking to us about, I can't remember now because I was too riled up. He told this story about a really respected Lama in Tibet who was, out just moving around, and this man invited him to stay the night at his house. And the man said, and I'm going to put you in this room, and in this room there's a bottle of wine, and in this room there's a girl, and in this room there's a goat.
I know this joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Lama drinks the wine. He says, has sex. I say, rapes the girl and kills the goat. So they're all kind of laughing, and I felt outraged that nobody, I didn't know, and I felt that outrage in a way that I couldn't speak and say, he just raped a girl and you're laughing? And what was that little girl being held in this room like a goat in a bottle of wine? And somehow it stirred up something in me, and I didn't know how to respond. And I continue to feel upset that I didn't say something, but I don't know what to have said.
Yeah. Sometimes it's too difficult because of the situation, as Celeste said. There's a time to speak up and a time where it's just the conditions just aren't there. You were in a, that's not your sangha, or is it?
It was at the time.
Oh, okay.
I've
yeah.
Not
so then later, there is a later, There is a later, and there is being skillful about that later, like one-on-one. I've been in workshops or lawyer trainings or whatever, where the speaker did something crazy, outrageous about women, often. And then the worst place to do it is raise your hand and do it in front of everyone. First of all, I mean, there's just no way that cannot add to suffering and chaos. But I have gone up one-on-one and at the end and say, I heard you say that. I felt upset. That's a very neutral word. I felt upset because I need accurate information, or I need respect as a woman. So you just cut straight to your own feeling, your own need. And where we need to become skillful is time and place. What's the Buddha saying about, I have it written close to my altar, it said, when it comes to speaking something that you think is truth, you first say, is it true? Sit with it. Is this true? Am I the right one to say it? You may not be because of your relationship. Am I the best one in the situation to say it? If my answer to that is no, then I might recruit a friend to say it. I might say, Sally, oh, I've done this, haven't I? Sally, could you say this to someone? Because I think that might be heard differently than if I say it. I did that with Tim Campbell not long ago. I cornered him and said, I want something said to someone, and it isn't me to do it because I've done it too much. Will you say it? So he went and did it, you know. So is it true? Am I the right one to say it? And then you look at time and place. Is this the right time? Is this the right place? And once you get clear on those, then you can also, I would add one, look at method. A lot of times I email something to someone. I just say, I want to follow up on the last whatever, and here's my concern, da-da-da. What do you think? Start a conversation right there. We feel so much better. If you're haunted by it, then you may want to do something. I say may, but first take it to your cushion and pour Buddha light on you and them, everyone there. By the way, that's a classic Tibetan Buddhist story about monks breaking their vows. Yeah, but it may not have been utterly clear that the so-called joke is the monk is in a situation where somehow he's sort of pushed into breaking one of the vows of unwise sex, killing, alcohol, and why he gets forced, I don't know. But he thinks to himself, well, the least awful one is drink the alcohol, because at least I don't harm anyone and I don't engage in unwise sex. But he drinks the alcohol and ends up killing the goat and having sex with the woman. And so the story is about don't use intoxicants to the place where you lose your mind. Maybe that wasn't clear, and even then, okay, it was clear, and of course, of course it's awful. I was not told a woman was in a room. It was just actually a woman that was attracted to him. He's attracted, but it doesn't matter. You still need to work that out, what you want to do. Does that help you have some sense of it? Okay, thanks for bringing it up. It's great to bring these up. Camilo. We have time for.
So this discussion takes place within a context. And the context is of how do we address our personal and individual inhibitions and anxieties about speaking up? So the the things that we were concerned about speaking up about also take place within a context. And this model of superior-inferior system is within a much larger systemic context, an historic context. We are now 3 days from an election. I can't not think about that.
Yeah.
While I'm here having this discussion, I'm not out in the street canvassing to get people to vote on issues that are significant to all of the questions that we're discussing today. So I would like to know, are we going to have an opportunity, or may we address these contexts and how we are able to participate with them effectively in order to make a difference in these issues we're discussing?
Yeah, how do you want to do that?
Well, a number of people have said they're concerned about being effective, having a voice, being confident about that voice. There are many opportunities in this town where you can find a voice, where you can be effective. And if you believe in these matters and you're concerned about whether or not you're being complicit, then you need to do some homework, investigate what opportunities are there for you to become engaged.
Yes,
and get engaged, join a group. If you're not a member of a group that's doing something about social justice, then your beliefs, as far as I'm concerned, are meaningless.
Yeah, thank you. I get it, and I think many people here do. But we aren't going to go around and pin folks down. But that's a call to action. Thank you. And as you see in this, it is the system of structured inequality. And I think it's, if we look at history, we do understand that those actions make a difference. What our work here is to increase our wisdom so that when we go out there, we don't just add to the suffering, anger, confusion. And I've gone out there for decades, and I can see the difference when I do the inner work and then go out in a very strategic way as a bodhisattva ally. And I can see the difference when I go out stuck in one of my unaware superior, inferior roles. Does that make sense to you? That when you go out stuck in your inner life, in ignorance, you're going to take that ignorance up there and just add to the confusion. I would say it's better not to add to confusion, but that does not mean do nothing. Let's not be confused about that. There is no doing nothing. Look, it's as though we're in a canoe going around a river, down a river. You're already in the canoe going down the river. So if you just sit there, I'm not in a canoe. I'm not going down the river. That's the position of privilege, right? I can just go shopping again. Doesn't matter where this thing was made and who's in a sweatshop in China, or the effects on the environment, doesn't matter. We're not like that. I think people get that who are here, you know. You get that. So therefore you have to decide, how am I going to engage with this canoe? Am I going to be a paddler? Am I going to fight the current? Am I going to cooperate with the ones in there with me? We make a plan together. Almost always it's been groups. There's this that make the positive changes. You know, it's funny because we have these ideas of kind of heroes like MLK or Gandhi or Bernadette Devlin in Ireland or whoever, that they kind of acted on their own. Or even Rosa Parks, who sat down on the bus. It was groups. She was in a group. an anti-racist group that was beginning to think about how do we change this system of black people got to be in the back of the bus, all crowded up, don't go to the front. It's never just one individual. So joining groups is important. And there are multiple opportunities for sure. Now I want to do one more exercise before we come to the end. So thank you, Camilo. I want to shift the focus to classism. In America, we can't talk about it because what do you get labeled? Yeah. How do you know that? Socialist, communist. Remember Obama, I think it was his first term, but I'm not sure. It might have been the second one. He made the mistake of bringing up class. It was when there was that 1%, 99% movement, Occupy Wall Street, and he spoke in support of them. That was way too socialist. And the response on the other end of the spectrum was, you are causing class warfare. There were speeches made on the congressional floor by him just speaking up and saying, it is true, the wealth is this lopsided, and I support the Occupy Wall Street. I don't think he came out that blatant, but he was sympathetic. And the response was, you are causing class warfare. Because classism doesn't exist. We're all fine. We're in a free market. I read an article recently. You are free in the free market to buy anything you want, to shop anywhere you please. And so, in a free market, this box, you're totally free. But who can't get in the box? Well, we don't think about them. There's some kind of low-life problems of their own. They've brought it on themselves, methamphetamine addictions and all that. They just make bad choices, those people. But if they stop making bad choices, they could be in the free market, being free. So we need to look at class, and I want us to do an exercise which is more of contemplative, just on your own. But I was looking up just for a statistic, for example, last night, and I found one about those who are not housed in Portland, houseless people. Here in Portland, we have 80 deaths per year of houseless people. I didn't know that. 80 per year, and the average age of those people is 44. Being houseless is like a serious situation, which of course we know. And at the same time, there's all these statistics on, like, it's something like, well, it's the 99% and 1%. That 1%, that's at the very top of the wealthy class, owns like more than something like 40 countries' budgets. It's just huge amounts of wealth. We can't even fathom them. It's huge. And that does not mean we hate those people. Why? Because of equanimity. This is where my challenge is. I do hate their ignorance. I do hate it. I really do. Because I grew up poor, and I watched my parents work and work and work at jobs and jobs and jobs and stay poor. My folks never owned their house. We lived in a 2-bedroom house with 3, 4, 5, usually 5 people, sometimes more, depending if grandparents or aunts and uncle had to come, which sometimes they did. In some ways, it was great because I learned to work in community, live in community. You always had someone around, and everybody helped with the cooking, the food, the babies, the whatever. So in some ways, it was I liked it. The first time I was in a bedroom by myself, I think I said was college, and I was shocked. It was like, this is not right, because it's too quiet, it's cold, it's solitary. I'm scared. Where's grandma and baby and da-da. But the point is that these things are real, which you know. So let's just do a contemplation some quietly. How would you describe to yourself or to someone else your economic culture? So just go inside and think about that.
Like our personal economic culture? Societies.
What do you mean? Yours.
Like my own.
Yeah, yours. You. We're in society, in all the realms of God realm on down. How would you describe right now? And you could also look at how you grew up. And how do you think that placement of you, it's within this, the concentric circles, it of course falls in this second one. You're a particular individual, but you were in that social economic strata. How does that affect how you are in the world? What can you see about it? What do you assume? What do you feel about it? And what do you feel about those in a lower economic situation or higher? Whatever shows up, welcome it. No judgment. Just let it be there. Who are you afraid? Which groups are you afraid to be around in the economic strata? And see if you can find in all that some compassion, both up and down, and for your own self and your own group. Can you see the suffering in every one of those strata? Suffering. And send to every one you've thought of freedom from that suffering. And to yourself also. Freedom from the suffering you may have of anger, confusion, guilt, pride, envy. May you be free. So now, with the short time left, let's partner up again, this time Bob with Linda, and going that way, so you'll have hopefully a new person. Okay. That repeats where we were. Oh, that repeats the last time. Okay, you were just what, with Bob?
We were together the first time.
Oh. Yeah, go back to the first time. And I'll be with you, and you'll be with Celeste. You're together, together. Just share those reflections of what you just went through. Let's get this out. another class December 1st, so please clear that off. And I want to do a few things for the end here, which is, here's that paradigm on approaches to diversity. I think it's kind of simplified, but it's another thing to think about. It's too simple, but it gives us another prism to look through, if you want to pass that down. We're going to do our dedication prayer, but it seemed like there was something else I wanted to say. Maybe not. Maybe not. We'll be looking at sexism, gender roles a little more next time. And we'll continue. You can see, this is the homework. Go back to these two sheets, the superior, inferior, and the bodhisattva model. We didn't talk much about the bodhisattva model today, but that's the way to break out of the superior, inferior box, right? And it goes back to what Camilo said, the taking action of body, speech, or mind. The sitting in a place where there's terrible things going on and holding a peaceful, loving heart is huge action. Most of us can't do it. That's gigantic action. Thanks. Okay, so focus most for homework reading that paradigm, diversity, 3 paradigms, and on these 2 sheets, working them through on your own, and on Ruth's book. Keep reading Ruth's book. Those who are reading it, you'll obviously see it's not the exact same model. It's just complementary to this. She uses a model of RAIN, recognize, accept, allow, investigate, and nurture. But, you know, you could put it over the top of the Bodhisattva model and it would work. And I love that book because it's by a woman of color speaking of her experience. So I knew we needed that perspective besides what has been added here. Thank you so much. Okay, let's dedicate. Let's be happy that we did this. Let's rejoice. As the Buddha said, rejoice. Find your refuge prayer sheet. Everybody got it? And we're going to do these dedications. In the first dedication where it says, may I always stop all beings, I interpret that as stop by using body, speech, and mind. So stopping, it doesn't mean going and grabbing someone and wrestling them to the ground. Except in Montana, you probably do that, and it might be good for them. But you got to get skillful about it. Okay. Without harming them, may I always stop all beings in all worlds who wish to commit harmful deeds. By this virtue, may I quickly realize Mahamudra and lead all sentient beings to that same supreme state. Let that soak into your mind. Call to mind the beings that you brought here at the beginning. Give it all away. Okay, we're done.